What would you do if everyone around you ignored your voice? If your ideas were dismissed before you could even finish speaking? Would you give up? Or would you keep believing in yourself? And what if one moment, just one, changed how everyone saw you? You are welcome to Silent True Lessons, an educational storytelling channel that teaches English and life lessons through relatable, inspirational, and motivational short stories. We promise that you will learn a lot from our stories. Subscribe to this channel to enjoy our stories regularly. In a small, quiet town where life moved slowly and people rarely paid attention to anything new, there lived a young man named Daniel. Daniel was not loud. He was not popular. And he was definitely not noticed. Every morning, Daniel walked through the same narrow streets, past the same familiar houses, and greeted the same people with a gentle smile. He said good morning softly and nodded politely. But most of the time, people walked past him as if he were invisible. Not because Daniel was rude. Not because he had done something wrong. But because people simply didn't think he mattered. Daniel worked at a local workshop on the edge of town. It was a busy place filled with machines, tools, and loud conversations. People laughed, argued, and shared ideas loudly. Daniel, however, stayed quiet. When meetings were held, Daniel listened carefully. He had ideas, good ones, but whenever he tried to speak, someone else talked over him. Sometimes, his suggestions were ignored completely. Other times, someone else said the same thing later and received praise for it. When tasks were assigned, Daniel was always given the smallest ones. Cleaning tools, carrying materials, fixing minor details. Not because he was lazy, not because he lacked intelligence, but because people had already decided, without knowing him, that Daniel was not important. Over time, Daniel began to believe them. Each ignored greeting, each unheard idea, each quiet dismissal. They slowly became a voice in his head saying, maybe they're right. Maybe I don't matter. One afternoon, during his lunch break, Daniel sat alone on a wooden bench behind the workshop. The sun was warm, but he felt cold inside. From a distance, he watched his colleagues laughing together, sharing food and stories. Just then, an older man sat beside him. It was Mr. Harris, the workshop cleaner. He had worked there longer than anyone else. Most people barely noticed him either. You look heavy inside, Mr. Harris said gently. Daniel forced a small smile. I guess I'm just tired. Mr. Harris shook his head slowly. No, he said. That is not tired. That is something deeper. Daniel hesitated. No one had ever asked him how he felt before. After a moment, he spoke honestly. No one listens to me here, Daniel said quietly. No matter what I do, it feels like I don't exist. Mr. Harris nodded as if he understood perfectly. Do you know a word called insignificant? He asked. Daniel shook his head. I've heard it, but I don't really understand it. Mr. Harris smiled kindly. Insignificant means something that seems unimportant, small, or without value. When people ignore you or act like you don't matter, they are making you feel insignificant. Daniel looked down at his hands. That's exactly how I feel. Mr. Harris leaned closer and spoke softly but firmly. Feeling insignificant does not mean you are insignificant. Daniel looked up, surprised. What do you mean? Mr. Harris explained. Sometimes, people ignore what they don't understand. And sometimes, they ignore what reminds them of their own fears. Your quiet nature makes them uncomfortable because it forces them to face their own insecurity. Daniel thought about this for a long time. That night, lying in bed, Daniel made a decision. If nobody believed in him, he would believe in himself. The next morning, Daniel arrived at work earlier than usual. He focused deeply on his tasks. He studied how the machines worked. He asked questions, not for attention, but for understanding. He practiced quietly when no one was watching. Days turned into weeks. Still no applause. Still no praise. Still no recognition. But something inside Daniel was changing. He stood a little straighter. He trusted his thoughts more. He stopped waiting for permission to believe in himself. One morning, everything changed. A major machine in the workshop suddenly stopped working. Production came to a complete halt. The noise stopped. People gathered around, worried. Supervisors argued. Workers panicked. No solution appeared. Daniel stood nearby, watching carefully. He knew what the problem was. His heart began to race. His hands trembled slightly as he raised his hand. "I think I know what the problem is," Daniel said. No one responded. He swallowed and spoke again, louder this time. "I can fix it." A few people laughed quietly. Some looked away. Others shook their heads. But Daniel didn't sit down. He walked toward the machine. "Let him try," Mr. Harris said firmly from the corner of the room. Daniel examined the machine carefully. He noticed one small component that had been slightly misplaced, something everyone else had overlooked. He adjusted it. The machine came back to life. The room fell silent. Then applause broke out. People stared at Daniel as if they were seeing him for the first time. From that day on, things changed. People greeted him. They asked for his opinions. They respected his work. But the most important change had happened long before that moment. Daniel had learned to trust himself before anyone else did. There are some lessons from this story. 1. Being ignored does not mean you have no value. 2. Self-belief must come before external support. 3. The word insignificant describes how people may treat you, not who you truly are. 4. Quiet effort can speak louder than loud opinions. 5. The moment you believe in yourself, everything begins to change. Have you been ignored by people around you? Have people made you feel unimportant? Please share your thoughts in the comments. We surely read every one of them. Your story might be the inspiration someone else needs today. Thank you for watching Silent True Lessons. Subscribe and turn on notifications to join our community of learners and seekers. Until the next video, goodbye.